The air in the room is heavy, filtered through the late afternoon sun of Los Angeles. A man stands in the center of the wooden floor, his chest broad, his arms thick with the kind of muscle that commands respect in any ring. He looks at the smaller man standing opposite him, a man who weighs significantly less, dressed in a simple, dark tracksuit. The larger man smiles, not out of malice, but out of a sincere, practiced disbelief. He has spent a lifetime learning that power is the result of mass, velocity, and visible tension. To him, the man standing before him is an intellectual, a theorist, perhaps even a performer, but not a force of nature. He asks a question that hangs in the air. How can you possibly move a man my size without a wind-up? Bruce Lee does not smile back. He simply adjusts his stance, his movements as fluid as oil on water. Give me a few seconds, Bruce says, his voice a low, steady hum that vibrates with a terrifying lack of doubt. In those moments, the world for the professional fighter is about to shift on its axis, permanently altering his definition of strength. It is a warm Tuesday in the late 60s. The location is a quiet, unassuming dojo in a suburban pocket of Los Angeles, away from the neon lights of the film studios. Outside, the scent of blooming jasmine mixes with the faint, metallic tang of car exhaust from the nearby freeway. Inside, the atmosphere is cooler, smelling of cedarwood, floor wax, and the dry salt of dry perspiration. Dust motes dance in the golden shafts of light piercing through the high, narrow windows. Bruce Lee is in the prime of his youth. He stands as a silhouette of lean, wiry precision that belies the explosive potential held within. He wears a modest black outfit, his hair neatly combed, his expression one of a man who is observing a problem rather than participating in a conflict. His opponent is a heavyweight, a champion of traditional karate, a man accustomed to the sound of breaking boards and the impact of heavy gloves. This man represents the establishment, the belief that force must be telegraphed to be effective, that power must be shown to be real. He looks at Bruce's slender forearms and sees a lack of armor. He sees a lack of threat as he understands it. I don't see the tension, Bruce, the champion says, his voice echoing slightly in the hollow room. You're too loose. There's no bite. Bruce takes a slow, deep breath, his diaphragm expanding and contracting with surgical rhythm. Tension is the enemy of speed, Bruce replies softly. And speed is the precursor to power. The champion shakes his head, his skepticism rooted in years of hard-won trophies and broken ribs. He believes in the clench, the tightening of the jaw, the bracing of the core, the visible preparation for violence. To him, Bruce looks like a man waiting for a bus, not a man prepared to move a mountain. The silence between them stretches, filled only by the distant chirp of a cricket beneath the floorboards. Bruce steps forward, his feet barely making a sound on the polished wood. He asks the champion to stand in a firm, braced stance, the strongest position he knows. The champion complies, digging his heels in, lowering his center of gravity, becoming a human anchor. He is a wall of meat and bone, confident that no flick of a wrist can disturb his foundation. Bruce raises his right hand, extending only his index and middle fingers. He places the tips of those two fingers against the champion's sternum, right over the center of his chest. There is no fist. There is no pullback. There is no visible gathering of energy. The champion looks down at the two fingers and feels a sense of pity. It feels like being touched by a child. Is this it? The champion asks, his voice steady, his eyes locked on Bruce's calm face. Bruce does not answer with words. He simply closes his eyes for a fraction of a heartbeat. In that moment, Bruce is not thinking about a strike. He is thinking about a wave of water hitting a cliffside. Suddenly, a sound like a whip crack echoes through the dojo, a sharp, dry snap that seems to come from nowhere. There is no visible lunge, yet the champion's body reacts as if he has been struck by a falling timber. His feet, once anchored, lose their grip on the earth. His lungs involuntarily expel every ounce of air in a ragged gasp. He is propelled backward, his heels skidding across the wood, his balance dissolving into chaos. He hits the padded wall several feet away, his back making a dull thud that shakes the framed photographs on the wall. The champion slumps to the floor, not in pain, but in a state of total neurological shock. He tries to stand, but his legs feel like jelly. His brain is struggling to process how 2 fingers did the work of a battering ram. Bruce remains exactly where he started, his hand now resting at his side, his breathing unchanged. The room falls into a heavy, suffocating silence that lasts for what feels like an eternity. The witnesses in the room, a few students and assistants, stand frozen, their eyes wide, their mouths slightly agape. They had seen Bruce move fast before, but this was different. This was a demonstration of heavy weight from a light body. The champion finally finds his breath, his face flushing with a mix of embarrassment and profound realization. He looks at his own massive hands, then back at Bruce's slender fingers. Bruce walks over, reaches out a hand, and helps the larger man to his feet. "You were looking for the spark," Bruce says gently, "but you forgot to look for the current." The champion sits on a wooden bench, his ego stripped away, replaced by a sudden, thirsting curiosity. "Ow," is the only word he can manage. Bruce sits beside him, his posture as disciplined as a monk's, his voice now that of a patient teacher. "You believe that to be strong, you must be rigid," Bruce explains, tracing a line in the air. "But rigidity is the precursor to breaking. A tree that does not bend in the storm is the first to snap." He explains that visual force is often wasted energy, muscles fighting against other muscles within the same body. When you tense before you hit, you are breaking your own car while trying to accelerate, he says. He speaks of explosive alignment, the ability to utilize the entire body's mass through a single, relaxed point of contact. The champion listens, not as a rival, but as a student who has just seen the horizon for the first time. He realizes that his size had become a cage, limiting his understanding of what the human form could achieve. This moment did not stay within the walls of that Los Angeles dojo. Over the following months, the champion began to strip away his old habits, trading his armored tension for a newfound fluidity. He told his peers not of a man who could fight, but of a man who understood the physics of the soul. The story rippled through the martial arts community, challenging the very foundations of how strength was measured. Bruce did not seek to publicize the encounter. He did not need the validation of a fallen giant. For him, the demonstration was merely a way to plant a seed of doubt in a fertile mind. Years later, those who were in the room would speak of that day as the moment their own path changed. They learned that true power is quiet, that it does not need a shout to be felt. They saw that a man who has conquered himself has no need to conquer others through intimidation. The champion went on to teach others, passing down the lesson of the 2 fingers and the silent strike. He became a humbler man, a better fighter, and a more profound human being. Bruce Lee continued his journey, a nomad of the martial arts, always seeking the most efficient way to express the human spirit. He remained the same, unassuming, disciplined, and terrifyingly calm. The legacy of that afternoon lives on in every practitioner who chooses softness over hardness. It lives on in the realization that what we see on the surface is rarely the full truth of a person's capability. We often judge a book by its binding or a man by the width of his shoulders. But the greatest forces in the universe, gravity, time, and wind, are often invisible until they move. The champion learned that his biggest weakness was his reliance on looking strong. Bruce Lee showed him that being strong is an internal alignment, a state of being rather than a state of doing. As you look at the challenges in your own life, consider the man on the wooden floor. Consider the assumptions you make about who is powerful and who is not. We spend our lives building walls of tension, thinking they protect us from the world. But perhaps, like the champion, we are only one soft touch away from realizing we are standing on thin air. Are you holding your breath, waiting for the wind-up? Or are you ready to let the current flow through you without resistance? Few seconds were enough to change a champion's life forever. How many seconds are you willing to give to the truth? Would you like me to research more specific historical accounts from the Long Beach International Karate Championships to further detail this narrative? Follow Bruce Lee, Beyond the Fight for more. True power begins before the fight.